I can't just pay my rent and expect to live in peace? What's the RTA? The LTB, RHEU, SEC? What? Not to worry, in this video, I will tell you what you need to know to ensure you are protecting yourself as a tenant here in Ontario. Hello everybody, my name is Weiting Bollu. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Openroom.ca, where we aggregate tenancy court orders across Ontario and across Canada and make that information accessible across the financial ecosystem to support accountability and transparency. I mean, you should know who you're renting from. Like, does that landlord take care of maintenance? That's basically what you would search for inside Openroom to make a more informed decision. The thing is, I purchased my first property at 23, but prior to that, I lived in student housing at York University and I rented from private landlords over the summer during internship days. I didn't know about these acronyms or why it was even needed, because I pay my rent and everything is fine. That's not exactly the case. Now, with Openroom University, I'm bringing you knowledge of what I wish I knew so that you don't make mistakes like I did. Ontario's residential tenancy compliance is based on what's called the Residential Tenancies Act, also known as the RTA for short. It's a provincial law that governs rental housing, defining rights and responsibilities for tenants and landlord parties. Now, in Ontario, the lease is actually just the beginning. Once the keys are handed over to you, the landlord is now governed by everything that's written in the RTA. And on your side, it also specifies what is your responsibility. If they write clauses in your lease that contradicts what's in the RTA is king. It takes precedence. So for example, many will write clauses such as, you can't have pets in the unit. But if you move in and later on want a pet, then you're technically allowed per the RTA to have one. But two caveats to that is, one, your landlord may now be upset and you've ruined what may have been a relationship built on trust. Do you want to do that? I'll leave that up to you. And second, if you're in a condo building and the condo specifies no more pets, they have their own rules, so it's a little bit different. And when landlords are unhinged and do weird things that you might find as crossing boundary lines, your job at that point in time is to stay calm, factual, and quite frankly, boring. The Landlord and Tenant Board, which is also known as the LTB, is an administrative tribunal that resolves disputes between residential landlords and tenants, handling disputes like evictions, rent payment problems, and maintenance complaints. Or if you just have questions about tenant rights, that's where you would go. And all of that is governed by the Residential Tenancies Act, the RTA, that we talked about earlier. They are similar to court with the ability to issue decisions or judgments, but know that they are not actually an official court. So when your landlord is threatening you with an eviction or lockouts, remember that boring style from earlier? It can actually help you win at the LTB. Do we see a lot of cases where it gets really emotional when we attend these virtual hearings, which you're actually able to attend and watch? Yeah, we do see a lot of that. But the thing is, the last thing you want to be labeled and known as is a professional tenant because you take advantage of the system. We don't want that to happen to you. If behavior escalates into further threats or harassment from the landlord, make sure you call the police. Will they solve the tenancy issue? Rarely. Will they create a paper trail that shows you acted responsibly? Yeah, possibly. And that paper trail can be gold later on. You want evidence showing that you acted professionally when you bring the dispute to the LTB, if it ever happens. Another underused resource is the Rental Housing Enforcement Unit, also known as the RHEU. You can actually contact them to try to resolve issues before you take matters to the LTB. I mean, they won't rush in like superheroes to try to save you, but occasionally they do show up. The thing is, oftentimes we don't want issues to escalate into tribunals or the courts because going further to those channels may have potential consequences, such as these court orders being publicly accessible under Canada's open court principle, which means that others can see your dispute and all the information that was declared in court. When you file a complaint with the RHEU, you want to have these pieces of information ready. All right, get a pen and paper. Let's get this. Your name and contact information, because they do not take anonymous complaints. The name and contact information of the landlord you're complaining about. They're going to want to know. Details of the complaint, for example, the date, what happened, the time. Number 4, supporting documentation. For example, relevant emails. What else do you have to support that this actually happened or that this is a problem? And remember, if you call in, you may also want to write a letter or an email so that you have it on record, because that can be further evidence that could be used or added on to your LTB filing, or if it's anything filed against you. You should also keep a copy of your written requests and any responses. Note how long it took your landlord to address your concerns, if they've addressed anything at all. And check the Residential Tenancies Act to see if your concern is an offense. The Small Claims Court, also known as the SCC, comes in handy as it handles post-tenancy financial claims. So think of win of bad faith evictions, win of rent abatements, and the SCC here enforces LTB orders for money that is owed to you. That's right, the paper that you got from the LTB doesn't actually do much just yet. But wait, unless you are using Openroom's rental debt ledger to negatively impact the credit history of your landlords, or they would be the debtors in this case. Yeah, my team can help you connect into Equifax. Okay, more on that in the description below. I sidebar, let's get back. Sometimes you want to go further, so you'd go for enforcement methods at the SCC, such as a seizure of property after an LTB order to try to get money back. Okay, it's time for our rental trio, the top 3 takeaways of this video. Law over ego. The RTA outlines the responsibilities of parties involved in a tenancy. Boring pays off. Being labeled as a professional tenant who takes advantage of the legal system is not, I repeat, not your goal. Paper trails pay off. He said, she says helps nobody, and it doesn't really help the adjudicator make decisions at the LTB. Speaking of which, I've got a template on what an evidence package could look like if you ever end up at the LTB. Download it for free to prepare in the description below. If you found this helpful, please share with another renter to make sure they know the basics of all 4 of these acronyms. Send me some questions in the comments or hit subscribe to this channel to stay in the loop on residential education. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next week.